Hey folks, welcome back. If you've been paying attention to this channel lately, you've probably already seen my recent videos covering the figures from Heroscape's Boiling Tension story arc. I still have one more video to make covering the 2 heroes that were sent to me as well, but you can expect to see that soon. In the meantime, look what just arrived at my door. This is Heroscape Embers of War. Today, I just wanted to show off some photos of the miniatures from this arc, as well as share some initial thoughts and first impressions. I'm going to be making more in-depth videos for each of these releases, but that's going to take some time. For now, let's just take a quick look at what we've got here. Firstly, it's great to see that the sculpt quality is as good as ever with this wave of releases. Heroscape has never had higher definition in its sculpts than it does today, and I think fans of both the unpainted and pre-painted figures are going to enjoy what they receive here. Speaking of pre-painted, the premium in its advertising is really starting to live up to its name. I was worried when I heard that they were going to be painting the pupils for some of these figures, as it's always a huge risk to do so. However, I've got to say that I'm impressed with what I see here. I think they pulled it off. Across the board, the pre-painted figures are looking great in Embers of War. The weakest of the bunch is probably Garusha, but even then, it's not that bad. I think the Crimson Widow and Dreadnoughts display the most impressive paint applications, with all their buckles and chains and such. Still, I think my favorite sculpt plus paint combo this wave has got to go to the Great Bow Archers. I was stunned when I first pulled them out of the box. These figures really are giants. They absolutely look the part, and I can't wait to start building some armies that include them. Actually, come to think of it, pulling figures out of the box was noticeably easier this time around. A bit of a far cry from the plastic insert warping the bases of the molten crustaceans. It was a much more pleasant experience unboxing these, and I think it's led to more consistency in the quality of the product. The next point is a minor thing, but it's something that I care about, so I figured I'd share. Once I gathered up all of the cards from this wave of releases, I noticed that all of the original 5 plus 1 generals received representation here. Valorak and Revna received a ton of support in the last story arc, so it's nice to see the OGs get a turn at bat. I will say, though, that in gathering up the cards, I noticed something else. These cards are just not the same quality that we've previously had in Age of Annihilation. They seem to be printed on a slightly thinner cardstock, but it's difficult to tell. They feel more flexible than what came before, in a bad way. The type of cardstock used in previous Renegade releases was one of its strengths, so I've got to say that I'm a little disappointed to see a regression in quality here. I should mention the print quality as well. I'm not the first to notice this, but the gallery card came out a little too green? Like, it doesn't match previous Vidar cards, and everything, including the stat block, is visually tinted. I'm not sure what happened there, but it's gotta be a production error of some kind. I'm not normally a stickler for minor variations in prints, but this one feels like a mistake to me. The last point I want to bring up is in regards to the scaling of the figures themselves, as this seems to be the biggest talking point online at the moment. When I saw posts like these, I feared the worst, but once I got the figures in my hands, I reached the conclusion that this is nowhere near the issue it's being made out to be. Are there inaccuracies with what is listed on the cards and what we physically see with the figures? Yes, indisputably. Is this worthy of a recall? I think you can look at the problem 2 ways. Does the figure's physical height match the height listed on the card? And does the figure's physical height match our relative expectations based on what has previously been released? I think both stances have merit, but I find myself prioritizing the latter over the former. Should the height listed on the card closely match the physical height of the figure itself? Yes, of course. Does it really matter if it doesn't? Not especially. It's basically only relevant in fringe rulings when determining adjacency with walls and cliffs. I'd actually argue that the other point I mentioned earlier has a more tangible impact on the game. I think you're simply going to notice the inconsistencies between these figures and other figures more than the inconsistencies between these figures and their cards. In my opinion, the vast majority of these figures fit in just fine with Heroscape's relative miniature size. With one exception. I think the gallery are just too big. Ignoring the thought that they should be medium 6 at the very least, I also just don't feel that these figures match the card. 2 defense for such a beefy warrior? Defend the Deep kind of loses its luster when the gallery can still tower over you, even on low ground. I'll be curious to see if Renegade chooses to go the route that Hasbro once did and errata the height of some of these figures. They've improved so many of the other aspects of their production, I guess figure scaling is the next one to tackle. Anyways, thanks for watching, folks. I hope you've gleaned something valuable from this little look at the figures from Heroscape Embers of War. Like I mentioned, I will be making full videos for each of these releases in due time. Until then, happy scaping.